Well, thank you, Mike, for some such title as I have. So my name is Bryan Ollendyke. I work in College of Arts and Architecture, as was mentioned. And I couldn't help but bring up this article because we were talking about VLE there in Malcolm Brown, and this was from like 4 days ago. So it says, "We are the architects." And my biggest bent with NGDLE is that everyone, by architect, they draw a diagram and they're done. We actually have been building an NGDLE for like 4 years. So, but it meant we are the architects too. I am one of those architects, supposedly. So it's a really good article, other than my snarkiness implicitly. But segue to what we're talking about, not at all. So I'm going to be talking about the end of the web. So I like to try and be provocative somewhat. So, as Mike mentioned, I work on a project called ELMS-LN because you can never have enough letters in an acronym. And it stands for E-Learning Management System Learning Network, which means we're double the learning of every other LMS out there. elmsln.org, where you can check out more about the project. But basically, the way that we envision an educational online system is kind of like this. So it's not a system, it's lots of systems that are connected to each other. And unlike more traditional LMS type of architecture where you might buy a couple products from third-party vendors, plug them in via a standard called LTI, but those little tools don't talk to each other, we envision everything talks to everything. And so if you're familiar with XAPI or Experience API, Tin Can, whatever name you want to call it, it's a really stupid name. That just this idea that you're collecting analytics off everything in a separate location starts to really have an impact at scale when you start rolling out other systems that also treat that as another distributed system. So basically, that diagram is what it's saying. We get into weird stuff. And trying to build the future system, it has next gen in the name, so I guess it's supposed to be futuristic like Iron Man. But so this is one of those things I stumbled on. When did we not stop talking about this, Mike? It's February, I think? So February. It's called Web Components. Has anyone heard of Web Components? That I don't know? Okay, JR, sir?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Okay, cool. Yay, it's something new. So what is a web component then? To be extremely academic, a web component is a set of web platform APIs that allow you to create new custom, reusable, encapsulated HTML tags and use a web page or web apps. Anyone have any idea what that means then? No. Okay, so basically it lets us make our own HTML tags. So does everyone know what HTML is? Please. Can't show your weight. Yes, okay, good. Does everyone, I'm not saying you know how to write, but do you know what JavaScript is? Okay, do you know what CSS is? Awesome, so you already know what web components are. Because all a web component is you take those three things and combine them and you make a new thing. Does anyone remember the video tag being released? It was a huge deal. We can play a video right in the browser. It's amazing. I don't need Flash or all these other things to do it. That was 5 years of arguing among WC3 members to get a single tag into the browser. And during that arguing, they were like, okay, gang, we really need a better way of getting other tags if we're ever going to turn the web into more than just visualizing video and a bunch of pictures. So to dispel what this isn't, so we start to talk about it, has anyone heard of Pattern Lab? So Pattern Lab is it's a framework sort of, but it's more of a design methodology in which when you're building anything, you start thinking of the page like molecules. And that molecules assembled create, atoms. I mean, atoms lead to molecules, lead to organisms, lead to templates, lead to whole pages. So if you imagine you take like a person's profile picture as a standalone with a circle, right? And then it's part of a card, and then that card is part of a grid, and then that grid. So it's just kind of a way of thinking through these. So web components allow you to do similar conceptual things, but it's not the same. It's also not the same, but it gets mixed in a lot with Angular or React. If you've heard of them, they're front-end development frameworks. Again, not that I don't know how to do either of these two because they drive me insane. Web components doesn't, but just that you're familiar. Hey, like Facebook's built in React, or better because they built React. If you Google web components, you're going to see the word Polymer thrown around a lot. They're not the same, but they're extremely similar. Polymer is just kind of a way of helping you build web components a lot faster. So what is a web component? So web component is actually, unlike those other things that kind of, if you imagine they sit on top of the browser and you run a library and then you build things against the library, web components is actually a standard of the browser itself. And so if you imagine that div tags and paragraph tags and everything that makes up the browser is effectively unpacked gobbledygook, right? There's stuff in those atoms. That's kind of what this is as well. And the W3C largely has agreed upon, not entirely, but largely has agreed upon that these four specs, if they're implemented by the browser technically implements web components. So web components is kind of this meta, if you will. And the four things are templates that you can create a new tag, that you can stamp down tags. I don't know how that's different really from custom elements, but custom elements is that you can define your own HTML tag and the browser recognizes it, doesn't just go, I think it's a div. Shadow DOM, which is a rendering engine we're not going to cover, and then imports is that you can basically reference one HTML file from another and bring its content in. So Chrome and Opera support these natively, which means they're real fast. And Safari, Firefox, and Edge, there's enough support via JavaScript to make it occur. So let's take an example. Let's say we have an awesome explosion. And instead of right now, does anyone know how they would put an awesome explosion, a sweet GIF from GeoCities onto a website? Get an image tag. So I'd write bracket img src equals awesomeexplosion.gif, because this is animating, height 400 with whatever. Right? And then a backslash, or else it won't work. Can you explain that to any other person that's non-technical at all? No. But I could probably say, oh, you want to throw an awesome explosion there. So if you just put the awesome explosion tag, right? So let's mix in some properties to our awesome explosion. What if we wanted, instead of width equals 400 pixels, because human beings don't know what pixels are, what if they just wanted a tiny explosion, or a small one, or a big one, or an epic explosion, right? That I could have size, because size makes more sense. What if that epic explosion needed to be purple, or red, or yellow, or blue, right? Not, let's do a CSS color shift, right? We're trying to abstract away from all of those things that people don't understand. And so what we could be left with is a tag that looks like this. We have awesome explosion, size equals big, color red. And I would know that no matter where that's put with this tag, I will always get an awesomely big explosion that's red. Okay, but so what uses web components? There's obviously not just an awesome explosion tag, although I probably should make an awesome explosion tag now. So someone has to be using this, right? There has to be, why is this a big deal, talking about HTML elements? So Google Earth, the new one, if anyone saw it, it's earth.google.com. is rolled out in web components. Now it only works in Chrome because they're doing 3D flybys and crazy stuff, so they are cheating a little bit. But if you right click on anything and hit view source or inspect, you'll start to see things that are not HTML tags. And the browser is the thing actually figuring out how to render that HTML tag is what the big thing is. There's no other library doing it. If you go to youtube.com/new, that's also built on web components. The way you can detect that it's built on web components is if you inspect, you'll see a bunch of tags that don't look like HTML, right? So you've got, in this case, an app drawer, a YTD-browse, a YTD page-manager. You can find custom elements because in the spec they have to have a hyphen in them, so it's the easiest way to tell. You're not going to get stuff. You're going to get hyphen. So you can see they're using them all over the place. Now there are also divs and normal HTML tags mixed in here as well. And so why would I be rambling about web components for 8 minutes and 25 seconds is Elton's learning network is loaded with them. So when we discovered a methodology of implementing these in February, pretty much haven't slept since then, which is why I had a lot of caffeine today. And we just kept implementing them because this solves so much of the web's problems as a platform. So let's take a non-silly example, right? A checkbox. Does everyone use a checkbox on a web page? Yeah, of course you do. So you click the checkbox and it's there, whatever. Did you ever notice Google products checkboxes look really nice? And they make a boop, and there's a check. And it's the correct color offset, and it makes a sound effect practically. But other checkboxes, if you just put a checkbox on the page, it looks like garbage. Well, if you imagine that you would have like a paper checkbox as a tag, you could have that awesome Google Hadoop. But there's more to it than that. It's actually accessibility enhancements in that checkbox. Rob Dodson from Google goes through this whole presentation about like all the accessibility considerations of the implementation of a single checkbox on the page. So would you rather take all that into account every time you put a checkbox on the page, maybe make a mistake and maybe get sued like, I don't know, a university that's made up of members, a lot of them in this room? Or would you implement a paper checkbox that's already got all that taken care of? So let's look at another example we made. It's called LRN design-drawer, because what we envision is, well, we could make pedagogical and teaching and learning-centric components that you can then start using anywhere. And then we'll have our own expression for how to teach online with HTML tags that kind of seem like they make sense. Instead of dip, 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 dip. Oh, this is a roster. Maybe there's a roster of students tag or something that then presents all the students that are in the course. So in this case, it's an LRN design drawer. So I would have an icon that represents, hey, I click this and I get a menu. Maybe when I hover over that item, it presents me with a, hey, see more options here, right? So that starts to get into accessibility considerations. And I click and it flies out from the side. And then if I would hit escape, it would exit the context of it, which is huge for accessibility. So in just that, this 3-slide little thing here, that used to be like a week of my life, trying to figure out JavaScript libraries to implement to make a thing fly open that probably has accessibility issues. Now boiled down to a single tag I can stamp anywhere. So it's kind of like we're making our own Lego bricks. And then we can keep repurposing these Legos all over the place. And webcomponents.org, which we'll go to in a little bit, has over 1,000 of these Lego bricks of varying complexities. So looking at what a web component is, it's this, right? So we're good, you can all make one. Except it's really zoomed out. So let's zoom in a little bit, but try and focus on it. So you're gonna have a file that's like the name of the element .html. So in the case of this, it's lrn design-drawer.html. And so everything in that HTML file is defining for the browser, this is what I need when I see this. So the top of that, just like HTML, you can reference other elements. So you can start to pull in your other Lego bricks for how you want to assemble this one. Unpacking what that then looks like for that drawer, we have the CSS for it. So all the CSS to make that drawer look fantastic is right here. I don't need to worry about style sheet references. I don't need to worry about, oh, well, you know, when it comes to integration, I'll show you in a little bit, it's like 2 things, and you've integrated and used this flyout on any web page on the internet. After the style comes what the actual structure of it is. So in this case, there's not a lot of code to it. We're leveraging other elements to make this really complicated, click the button and it flies out type of experience. And so we got paper tags and things called app header and paper icon button, which is actually takes an icon into it and then makes it do something. So like a lot of the bailing wire is there already. Then you define what the properties are of it. This got to that very academic definition of web components are web API, blah, blah, blah. Is that basically these are the properties that I can plug into this tag. So when I write the tag, I can say opened. And if opened is there, much like if you have a checkbox and you say checked, it'll start with the thing flown open. Alt would be alt information, which I can then utilize to present the little hover states, much like an image has alt data, right? So you can define your own properties in that way to dictate how this should behave. And then if you want to get into JavaScript land, you still can do that, right? So it is JavaScript powering part of it. So why not to use this approach is if you need to support like Netscape Navigator 3.0. That's supposed to be good. Okay, someone not. That's supposed to be good. I had this GIF somewhere. I had to put it on here because I used to use this on a web page that I made in like 1998. And older versions of IE. So if you don't need to support those, then this might be the approach for you to use these. Now, this is going to be less and less of a big deal every year, basically. And I thought it would be a really big deal but I talked to some people in GovSpace at DrupalCon who have access to certain analytics stuff, and we went through and looked and said, okay, well, would this even be viable in government? Because government obviously has to support every user that's coming in, and if this blocks certain browsers, then this is a no-go. Well, they were already at like 98.5% of all traffic across 1 billion hits would get a page correctly. Because I don't know if anyone's familiar with Heartbleed. Anyone hear of Heartbleed? A few years ago, right? If you knew sysadmins, they were pulling their hair out. It was basically easily hacked through SSL certificates or anything. But as a result of that, everyone in mass said, if you have a browser lower than this version, it's insecure and you are not connecting to my website because I can't send it to you safely. It's the first time anything like that has happened, to my knowledge. But as a result of that, it forced a lot of organizations that used to ride really far behind, a few years later now, are like, okay, we probably need a more, progressive type of sliding scale when we're going to adopt this stuff. So most of the web traffic they got, now granted, it's 1.5% of 1 billion is still several million, right? It's not nothing, but it's very promising, especially if you're looking into projects going forward. Pros of this approach, it really separates concerns, right? So that one file had everything you would need to present that, which is huge if you've seen the way web applications have been made forever. It's just gobbledygook all over the place. Unidirectional data flow, which someone on our project tells me is important. I don't know what that means. Potter always talks about it, so I'll skip that. It's a component-based architecture, right? So we're building these little Lego bricks, and as we keep stacking to make bigger and bigger bricks, you could basically get to the point where you have like L-M-S as a tag, and it just deploys your whole LMS. Now that's a little silly, you probably wouldn't do that, but eventually you kind of get there because these things can be turned into apps on your phone very easily. And framework interoperability, which you see doesn't have a checkbox, it has this awesome face. So I need to make it bigger. Like that. Why is that important? Well, because anywhere, everywhere, all of these types of systems forever have been competing with each other, even if passively. Right? Your university might have adopted Canvas because it was built in React in 2012, and it looks really slick, and when I click, things fly out, and I know where stuff is, but that has absolutely nothing to do with pedagogy. It's the same system that Angel was, it just has Twitter Bootstrap applied, and it has nicer animations. So instead of everyone arguing over whether Drupal or static site generation or Wikipedia or Moodle or Sakai or any other system have a better UX and that's the reason why a CIO signs the check to whoever is because they have better user experience. If we all are building against the browser itself and sharing those components, we can have all of these platforms have a better user experience. Even things like Moodle and WordPress, which have gasps there because I don't like those platforms traditionally. So the reveal there is that we have these components we've been working on. We've got 40 or 50 of them at this point, I think, that are not namespace under Elms LN. Their namespace is LRN. And so we're making these tags for education in general, working with faculty, working with other staff members, instructional designers to say, when someone wants to, let's say it's a sticky note, someone wants to call a student's attention to something that's coming up in a semester. I used to be one of those people tapped, unfortunately, because I have terrible design techniques, as Mike knows, to go and make a sticky note out of div tags and CSS and gobbledygook, and then throw it into a space, and then 2 years later, oh, that wasn't accessible, uh-oh, it's used 50 times. What this lets us do is make the sticky note once, and it's referenced in one place and give it to everyone, everywhere, with an easy way to integrate it and an easy way for us to maintain and update it, so that then 2 years later, when that sticky note isn't accessible, we can update one file and know that that is going to fix the accessibility issue in 50 places. So go into a demo of some things, show some of these working, and like to try and get feedback. Like, we're really interested in getting people's opinions as to what types of elements would be helpful if they were to make one, if they want to present themselves on the internet. But so webcomponents.org is where you're going to find a lot of relevant information. And then polymer-project.org is the Google thing that makes web components. So from there, we're going to use another GASP face. and go off to 6,000 tabs that are basically overheating my computer because Chrome is using so much memory to keep all of these open. But, so webcomponents.org looks like this. And so if I wanted to say, like, I know what an AJAX call is. AJAX is a technique in JavaScript that basically gets data and brings data in. And I could find a tag, there's a tag for that. So we start saying, oh, what's the tag for that kind of a thing? So basically, if I copy and pasted this into any web page, now in this example, I've interfaced with the YouTube API to present like a listing of videos. That was hundreds of hours of work that this tag and a few other tags now are able to do. So there's all kind of elements on here. We search for LRN. There's a ton of LRN elements that we've been working towards. Some things called hacks, a little bit. But basically, anytime there's a problem that comes up, we're going, all right, let's design it as a web component, or is this a good use for when we can make this a component that's reusable? Like, do we need this again? So I couldn't get my head around this until I said, okay, I need icons. Has anyone used icons on a website? Okay, so has anyone made icons for a website? Has anyone made icons for a website? The technique changes like every year based on a really good Medium article. The entire industry will shift from, well, I don't even know what the standard is, like SVGs to PN, there's all this stuff. I don't care, I just want an icon on the web page. So, I said, okay, well, I'm gonna make an icon tag. Now there are other icon tags, I didn't invent the icon tags in the whole web. But so there's one called Iron Icon. An Iron Icon is Google's way of implementing, hey, I just want to put the icon there. And so what we said was, okay, well, let's make these instructional concepts, a little bigger there. And so we'd say, okay, simple thing, anytime we talk about an assignment, I want to always be able to just say, give me the icon for assignment and have it present the correct thing. Something that simple that if I copy and paste this assignment tag, basically anywhere, I would get an assignment. So then we know I'm talking about an assignment. If there's a change of the wind again from SVGs to whatever method of getting icons on the web, I can update the thing that makes the icon show up, not go around and edit every silly little icon implementation that exists on the web. So this was the first very basic one that we put together. It's just a whole bunch of different icons that express these concepts visually. So if we're talking about an online art studio, then we say, okay, well, give me the icon for studio. We don't have the icon that is palette brush 47 or whatever, .png. If we want, the icon for collaboration, or if we want the icon for a dinosaur, Mike made the dinosaur icon, so we have a dinosaur icon. Anytime we reference an LMS, I put a dinosaur icon. I've never actually said that out loud, because that is the way it shows up in our courses. So, or like a teacher or instructor, right? If I want to reference something that the teacher posted, I should be able to use the teacher icon. Okay, so everyone gets that concept. So we can extend from there and say, all right, well, what's another thing that's annoying? Does anyone put a table on the internet? Oh, the worst. TRTDs are just all over the place, and they're inaccessible. It doesn't matter what you did, you just made it inaccessible. Well, all a table is doing is basically loading a grid of information and presenting it poorly, because we all implement them differently. Well, what if we made a way of implementing that by just pointing to a CSV file? Because I notice a lot of people have an Excel sheet when they're laying out data tables initially, and then copy and paste and copy and paste and do whatever in a WYSIWYG editor, and then want to power bomb it because it's just broken. It's broken all the time, it's inaccessible. So, and these little sites are another advantage of Polymer. As you build the element, it automatically generates this documentation site on how to use it. So you kind of know that the element is correct based on if the documentation site looks correct, which is a nice side benefit. But in this element, we have LRN table, and LRN table points to a CSV file and has a description and a title. And if you implement these three things, you're guaranteed to have a wonderful accessible title or table. So in this case, this is a table loaded dynamically off of a CSV file that has been rendered with perfect accessibility. Now, I probably should have put air quotes around perfect accessibility because next year that'll probably be wrong for some reason because they'll change what's the best way to do it. But now I can update the LRN table tag, not mess around with every table that exists on the web. We also then do other fun things like, hey, do you want to download that data? I can just hit that, now I've got that CSV file. So then we've implemented this one tag from the student perspective, this, or any user, right? LRN table, description, whatever, so it's very readable too, right? I don't have to mess around with table, div, tr, td. I can just edit this one thing, I can edit the source file, and now I have that there. Another one we've been working on is aside, and an aside is like that sticky note idea that I mentioned, right? There's content you're calling out to that isn't primary instructional material. So in this case, we have the direction, if it hangs off the left or right, and some title stuff, but it also is able to implement the way it should be visualized, I believe. So in this case, hey, I've got this block, and the block is going to be sticky because I said, hey, LRN aside, did you know? Render yourself as a card, make yourself sticky, and put yourself on the right. And that show hacks goes to a little bit. But because we've got this display property here, I can take that same information and say, hey, I want to display that as a block of content. A block of content is not a sticky note, but to a non-sighted user, it is semantically the exact same thing. So if I inspect this, I can kind of peel back the information on it. But the important thing with this is you see there's right there, that aside. An aside is an actual semantic HTML tag. Did everyone know there's an aside tag? I didn't until, so I'm glad some people did because I didn't know that. And I make HTML tags all the time. But so our LRN aside implements the aside so that then whatever material is in it is semantically correct for screen readers, is going to present itself if you have the Google, or sorry, not Google, the like page viewer mode or whatever that like Apple, the Safari has. You click the button and it strips away everything. It'll strip this stuff away because it's technically like did you know material as opposed to primary source material. But in there, then we can have, there's our heading. Well, you didn't put it in H3, you put in the property title, did you know? It correctly put it in an H3 tag, which then implies it's a lower priority in the stack order of the page. So we're trying to get people not to have to think about accessibility while still making everything very highly accessible. We can also then say, hey, I want to present that as a card of material. I want to do it as a little card. I want to do it as a block quote, right? So some of these are like still very early, but the idea that we've got that exact same material and all we're doing is in our tag is tweaking, hey, display it as this other thing. That we would then have a series of things people can pick from for the design aspect. So that we're also trying to remove the design considerations entirely. Like it should just go on the web and I should say I want it to be a sticky note, it should be a sticky note, or whatever the thing is. Or let's say, I kind of stole this from Google a little bit, but let's say we wanted to have a content player. I stole it from Google, I mean it's a tag with a different name, I forked it. So let's say that we had course material, and you can see, hey, you're going to go through this training, it's 4 pages long, it has 60 minutes remaining, and I click the next one, and I go to the next one, and this works really well on mobile, and you see it goes through these, and I've got this very accessible, slick page interaction. You see the time counts up and down as I go. Maybe at the end, when I click this button, it would kick off next API statement or something, but in my case, it goes to an HTTPS domain, which is clearly blocked by browser policy. But, back here, the documentation, where it click docs. The thing that makes that show up on the page, though, is just this. So it's a content sequencer tag, and then in it is each step, like our content sequence step. And so label being 1, step 1, duration 10, these little bits of code are what make that entire UI, which makes it easy to swap out, it makes it easy for me to communicate to another person, hey, you can implement this and build it. So as I mentioned, we've got these all over the place in Helms. Can anyone tell me what where a web component is here? This is a workshop exercise. It's really engaging. No, awesome, that's right. So they're working. They're working, because the whole point is that you shouldn't be able to tell, oh, that's a web component. But I cheat on the test, and there's hundreds of them on this page. But this is an easy one, a neat one. So everyone's an artist, right? They make icons. I make icons for a living, obviously, in my spare time. Tons of them. Well, I didn't make this icon, the computer did. So that's a LRN design avatar tag, and an avatar tag implements paper avatar. And so we can stack all these things together. So if I said, you know what? I want to see what that looks like. Blue? Or maybe red. Red would show up better. Let's not do dark and 4. Let's just do red. And instead of that, I want it to say Michael Collins, like that. And so that is what a computer thinks Michael Collins looks like. He's a ninja master in this case. See, this is like a throwing star thing. But so it's doing this little Gedenticon property. That's a thing that's saying, hey, take that hash node, whatever the value is, turn it into this little artistic thing. Right, so we keep stacking all these concepts together to start to get pretty sweet little UI interface elements. I can't take out Gedenticon. I can't even say it, so I can't take it out. But you can also take it out to then just have like the letter M. That like everything on the internet seems to be like, you don't know Michael, but here's the letter M to indicate that it's him and it's yellow or whatever. So I mentioned there's web components all over the place in this. So this is a web component, that's a web component. I think everybody's kind of getting the idea of the web components part. But so there's one of those LRN icons, right? So then when I talk about the media thing, there's the icon for it. It's then inside a paper button, which makes it do the Google Hadoop. I don't know, I didn't always say that out loud, I don't really know why, but Hadoop whenever you click it. And then it's in a link tag, which should look a little more familiar. And then that's in a system button, and system button has all these other things with it, so that if I reached out and instead of media, no, I don't have it there. It says, you get the idea. So they're all over the place in this thing. To prove this isn't specific to Elms though, this is a CodePen. Has anyone used CodePen before or seen them? It just lets a developer plug in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and show someone something, right? It's a little temporary holding pen for it. And if I open my CSS, you'll see it's blank. This is the basic thing here. If I open my JavaScript, you'll see it too is blank. And my HTML is the only thing that's on here. So this right here is what has integrated web components into this entire page. So this is why this is so game-changing in my opinion, is that I didn't do, yes, there is some magic involved in, hey, we went and made these components, they have certain names, and they have all this stuff in them. But to actually implement and use other people's components is effectively dropping this single tag down and saying, hey browser, you should figure out what a paper button is, because I'm about to put a bunch of them on the page. And so I just took a whole bunch of elements and bundled them up into one file. But so then, all those types of tags we can put on here. So now here's that LRNSI tag that's sticky. Here's a tag inside another tag. This is a Wikipedia query tag that we made as an example, which a more sophisticated one. There we go, Wikipedia query. So if anyone wanted to know what the Wikipedia entry for instructional design is, it's in the page right now. It goes and gets it whenever the page loads, and here's the Wikipedia article. Does anyone else have a, let's do Altoona. You'll think about, there's probably no article for Altoona. There we go, results for Altoona. Altoona, yay! There's a bunch of them. I could probably put in Altoona disambiguous. So if you have the actual key phrase that is in the URL on Wikipedia, and you put it in there, it'll query and it'll show you what that information is. What else is down here? So there's that drawer from the initial example. So you click fly out. There's the wiki. Now they're stacking them, right? So there's the drawer that then inside it has a Wikipedia query tag. So now maybe I'm presenting to someone, you know, we're talking about instructional design. Hey, let's just see what Wikipedia says. mentioned before about quality. Well, I don't trust Wikipedia, but like it's still a decent enough example to get a gist of what the idea is a lot of times. So maybe I'm making a reference to other material, and you can see the history of instructional design from the 1950s apparently. Maybe I have that material presented as a card of material, or I have it in a sticky note, or whatever, a block quote. That we can have all these things and we can throw it in work. It's kind of system agnostic. You can start to put them in LMS type of things with the data driving them being from this more NGDLE mindset. Maybe one of these tags emits X API statements to a learning record store somewhere else, but the people implementing it didn't put that in place. They just put in like a lecture tag or something. Yeah, I'm going to leave that sentence. So here's a more sophisticated example of how we're using these. So this is our studio that we're working on. And so this is a grid of students' work. This is not real student work. So I read it already. That I can click and pop up and see whatever the work is, and I can scroll and have kind of an infinite grid of material, and there's that S tag. So this really helps in building applications as well. There's all those same little tags stacked together that are the same ones used basically anywhere else in the application. So this is crushing development time, even though Mike would say otherwise, because this is for his course and he really wants this and it's not done yet. But where we can go from there, there's a tag in there called, well, sorry, go to this one first, for some things other people made. So other people, I found this the other day, it's chemical element visualization. If anyone gather what that is? It's a highly specific named thing. So, does anyone know an element on the periodic table and want to see it?
Iron.
Iron, but I need the symbol. Fe. Yeah, Fe. So there's Fe. Right? And that's iron. So then if you want to implement that for someone, this is a more complex example. Let me go to the simple ones up here. There we go. So chemical element visualization, symbol Mg. So if you want to talk about magnesium, I assume that's what Mg is. Yes, it is good. Then you could just put that tag down and have this nice little SVG of the thing. Because it's just part of the browser, I can reach out and touch this, so to speak. So if I want it to be oxygen instead, well, now it's oxygen. And so I can cycle through all the elements of the periodic table. Getting back to the integration side, has anyone worked with something like this that's doing all this animation stuff? It's called Flash. It's like 20 years old and everyone in education still has it laying around all over the place. Flash is now dead, broken, and every other authorware platform that you're going to move to next will probably run into the same fate at some point, unfortunately. But this will kind of work forever. It's kind of a big deal. And implementation is copy and paste the reference to it and then start writing these chemical equation type of things. So we've got a bajillion elements on there. We're going to end with where these start to lead for us with an NGDLE mindset. If these tags are actually rendering material from all of our distributed systems that we have, maybe it's visualizing data from our XAPI warehouse, maybe it's creating a studio environment for students to collaborate, we can actually start to take out our authoring systems that make all of our systems special in the first place. So like WordPress, people love WordPress because it's really easy to use, relatively speaking. I can just kind of click create a page and start typing and I have a blog post. Well, they're working on an engine like this as well, but our idea with this is called HAX, and HAX stands for Headless Authoring Experience. It's basically that you can reach out, what if I could reach out and touch the browser and just edit the things where they are? Because I've already made the elements know their own properties, and so they should kind of have an idea of how they can be modified. So that, this is hyper prototype, but this isn't talking to any system, which is the big deal. So that if I saw this quote by me, that I could reach out, it's important to cite oneself. I found in NGDLE research, you cite yourself over and over again for 3 years. So that I could just reach out and touch this, and maybe it's by Michael Collins now, 2017. Maybe I'd say, a background of that, let's make it red, and let's make the text white. Let's take off that decorator, and let's make it explode outside the boundaries. And then I can save, and it's there. So what I did is effectively we have web components wired into our web components, and those web components know how to manipulate themselves, which is just editing the stuff that's in the browser, which I showed before, where I went, did this, right? Like anybody can go and click modify the stuff that's in the DOM. Well, these tags then know how to, they know what their properties are, and then they know how to modify their properties. So if it's a color property, well, now I can use a component that knows about color, and I can tell it to update that part of it. Well, let's step up a level even higher. I'd say I need to add content there, and I have a component pop up that knows about all the components, and then I would say, let's put down a block quote there, and the block quote would know how to modify itself, so I could just tab into the block quote if tabbing would be there. Apparently not. It's important when you talk about accessibility for an hour. There we go. Right, and I can just manipulate that again, save it, and then I can throw in one of those avatars from before, and reach out and modify that, or a content block, which has nothing in it. That would probably be bad for demo. Or a panel card, and a panel card knows, hey, you should have a deeper drop shadow and a bunch of information in you, that we can kind of start to have these systems be completely decoupled from the thing powering. So all of these tags can be shared to another person. We're starting to wire all of our LRN tags with this behavior of being able to manipulate itself in hopes that we can get education and educators out of HTML entirely. But with the names of tags and things creating enough of a conversation today that we could tell someone, hey, you want a sticky note? Well, if you put down this, or maybe we make an LRN-assignment tag, and an assignment has objectives. And if you fill out the objectives, you get this very nice looking objective list. Well, maybe we hook that up to our studio system, so now when I make the visual element, it asks, hey, do you want to create an assignment that's associated to this, so that then the directions update, right? That we can start to kind of have a pathway towards that via HTML, but then eventually move beyond it entirely to this, where people are just reaching out and touching the things that they want to manipulate. So that's the end of the little squiggly face. But if you're interested in learning more about the project, it's in use at a couple colleges at Penn State and beyond. It's elmsln.org. I'm at BTO Pro. There's also at ElmsLN for the project, and then there's at LRN components, which have to do, it's just me rambling about web components, but it's on a different account, so it makes it more important. Does anybody have any questions, any thoughts?
My question is about compatibility. So, I mean, you talked about how much you hate something like WordPress. So I was just wondering if this actually works in WordPress.
Now which part?
So you can do a source in WordPress, right? So HTML source.
As long as you can put that, there's the HTML imports part of the specification. So as long as you can reference the HTML file that has all the definitions in whatever web page it is, then you can use it. So like that code pen had just one reference. So if that was a WordPress site, it had that reference. So maybe that's in the theme layer. In Drupal, we made a web components module that actually reads off the definitions and then lazy loads them into Drupal, so then you don't have to, and then you start using the elements. But yeah, it should technically work.
Would something like this also work with HTML email?
What's that?
When I send out an email in HTML,
I'm going to say probably no. Nothing works with HTML. But I have no idea.
One quick question. How does this delay the loading page of a web page? I'm sorry, the loading time of a web page.
In Firefox and Safari, there is a noticeable enhancement, kind of flash a bunch of content, if you will, that CSS and JavaScript loading can run into at times. In Chrome and Opera, it's lightning. It's actually, I think, faster than traditional
page delivery. If you think of the way that a page would normally be structured, where there's a whole blob of CSS and I'm shipping it to you, and then JavaScript, I'm shipping it to you, and maybe if you're using like jQuery or something, I'm then analyzing the whole stack of the tree to realize you clicked on that X or whatever it is. Not to mention, let's say it's a grid of cards, like in that LRM whatever. The thing I'm sending you down the wire is actually just LRM diagram or LRM whatever as a single tag. Your local browser then unpacks it to have all the divs and everything via one definition. So if I have 100 cards on the page, I'm only sending you 100 tags and then one definition that might have 50 tags in it. Traditional delivery though, that would have been like 1,500 tags that I sent you. So I think it depends a lot on what the application is. As I was up till like 2:30 last night working on the performance to get it to paint better in Firefox and Safari. It's still kind of jarring in those until they implement the full spec. But no, it's pretty darn fast.
And I could, is it possible to create problems when you're grabbing these components from, say, a site that has a library of them? Is there any worry about different components using the same custom tag name?
You would have to make sure that you're not stepping on your own toes for that. That is definitely like name spacing. I mean, yeah, that's a definite. I haven't seen that happen thus far because generally you're going to name something in a hyper-specific way, or else you would have just taken it. But like let's say someone made like a paper app. I think paper avatar isn't actually like Google. A lot of paper elements are. But so if I made a paper avatar, then you would have to be concerned about if you were getting this A, or B. I think it'll be an issue as people start sharing larger applications. Right now, everyone's just kind of sharing the Legos and kind of then making blog posts about like, well, I split these 5 together. Just because the apps, from a business model perspective, make no sense to give away, but they also, like, am I going to give you a photo editing app? Like, and you're going to then like contribute to it meaningfully. So yeah, it's definitely a concern. It's something to think about.
So one concern I have is because when researching cybersecurity, so I think something like this can be used in a malicious way too, because I'm sure you're monitoring everything and monitoring people contributing code to your code base and so on. But what if somebody plants something malicious in one of those imported files and doing some sort of cross-site scripting, that kind of thing? Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, if you want to hack it at scale, you just hack a tracking bot service though. I mean, because they're doing the same type of a thing. So I mean, it's so if I use like a paper avatar, for example, and I use it in my thing, it's always forking the read, it's always pulling that code down. So then my build files that I have that reference everything live on my machine. I never reference, like that CodePen example is a poor security example for sure. I would not. That's not how we load them in. We build it all locally and then run it.
Nice.
So like you are getting paper avatar, but it's not the same paper avatar that you got when you went to YouTube or you went to, because of that concern. I wouldn't run it that way because of that.
Thank you for this presentation. That's really interesting.
It's not helpful to step back.
Can you elaborate on how you are collaborating with the W3 consortium? And specifically, if are you working directly with them and they are aware now, and so they're not really aware of how you're architecting, how this will play out? Because with their efforts with the web ARIA for rendering the rich media for accessibility, and then the Web of Things for how to connect the web with some of the Internet of Things in the physical world. I would be really curious how this all could match up.
So we didn't make the specification. That's like Google and the Firefox team, and the big honchos in Silicon Valley, working through the W3C to get the web component spec. So then like webcomponents.org is a people implementing the specification and kind of having its own little community in one area. So then bridging into the physical world, so Google started pushing this as a standard or an idea in like 2012 or 2013, which tells you how long it takes for anything to stabilize among a large enough group of people and with developers. But their end game, I think, is to replace all application development with this approach. So like YouTube.com is not the product, it's not full-on production, it's like still the next version, if you will. But I think they run the Angular project as well, so I think they kind of have these two trains that are both geared towards, like, what if you were just making web apps for Android and for Chrome, which then runs on Chromebooks and everything else, that then starts to bleed into Internet of Things as far as like, if I'm only building to web, if the web is the platform itself, then I'm building stuff against everything with a single place I'm building it. Or do you mean from the perspective of like hooking in things from?
Right.
So that sounds more your style XAPI thing.
Yeah, we were just talking earlier that Chrome was just released about 3 months ago with an IoT, native IoT support, and then immediately after that, a web component for IoT support came out right after that. So it basically bypassed the need to create an app to access IoT, which from a development standpoint, it makes things so much simpler. It allows you to go straight to the browser instead of using any kind of a native app to the iOS. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's the same kind of, it's the concept that they're basically reducing it to a browser-based support, right? Instead of it being a particular framework or an app or an iOS or OS, right?
Well, it's interesting, the World Wide Web Consortium, their role in all of this, because they've kind of been the moral authority for accessibility. And our campuses have, followed their guidelines and so on. And in their involvement with virtual reality and augmented reality, maybe even mixed reality, has been really kind of not very much activity. And then IEEE created that whole working group in the last year on those topics. But then last year, the World Wide Web Consortium hosted an event in Silicon Valley on VR and AR. And I'm just wondering, the forces going on here and the collaborations and how that...
I mean, I just learned about this like 3 months ago, and I was immediately, I was convinced as soon as I saw it as well. And I think what this does is it gives you the building blocks to then put whatever standards you want on top of it. So instead of saying, well, we're going to worry about what a table rendition is going to look like, you can now say, we're going to make that, whatever you're doing, easy. And then if W3C comes along and says, well, we want it to look like this, well, then they can update the web component to behave that kind of a way. It just makes that particular part of it a lot easier.
I've also seen some augmented reality components for like loading 3D files and things, so that then it would, and then other ones that recognize Bluetooth devices. So then you could have, like a Bluetooth headset and be looking at the screen kind of a thing, almost like look around stuff where they start pairing them. It's like it's not there right now, but like there's actually a pathway. This is the most logical pathway I've ever seen to building anything on the internet. So.
Do you have anything wired up for OER schema?
Oh, did you mention OER schema before?
Like for
Sorry, man, I came in the way. We also have an OER schema tag. We work with a certain faculty member in this room. So there's OER schema, And then there's, we have LRN page, I believe it is. So LRN page doesn't look like anything special, except if you read the definition, it says this ensures that there's an OER schema wrapper on all content to produce a baseline, blah, blah, blah. So that someone would write, you know, their content, hey, this is content. They're just saying this is content. And their gain is, hey, we're going to do headings in the correct order for you. So you don't have to worry about the accessibility of page tags or whatever. You don't even need to know what heading tags are. But what it's doing behind the scenes is it's taking that H2 and putting the OER schema property for name, and then it's wrapped it in supporting material, and then it's wrapped it in the prefix. So all of the like technical schema implementation jargon is not even something we mentioned in this. So like basically we're using it as like wiring for all of our elements as well. So if you're making them look good, that's your gain, and then it's accessible, so that's another gain, and maybe we can start to force you to use them because it looks good and it's accessible. But it's also, you know, if you can imagine that this would be like an LRN assignment tag, and then if it's wired with OER schema without people realizing it, they're basically programming the web for learning objects without expressing things as learning objects, because I think that's where they've always failed, is that you end up with, well, what's that OER hub site?
OER Commons.
OER Commons. OER Commons is awesome, but you can't repurpose anything because it's all built in this different stuff, different platforms to house it, because one was nicer than the other, or this was in PHP, or that was in Python. None of that should matter, really. That if we had our own HTML effectively, people are kind of programming the robots and stuff as to how to skim it off and read it and to interpret it and remix it. Did you show your remix tool? If you did what? Then you should have a remix tool. That's ludicrous. So that we could take, this is an open home site on XAPI, but that we could point to resources out on the internet that are wired with OER schema, and then I could just pull that in, start remixing. Or I could find other sources like stemresearchethics.org, which is a modified Helms instance. And maybe there's maybe this Esri lecture is really great. I could go to the C tool, dump that into my library, and throw that in. Two blocks. Again, it's prototype type stuff, but that if people are putting these things in and they're getting the gain visually, it's actually putting in all this metadata that we can start to mix this stuff together, instead of it just being like search for this thing and then point everybody to the University of Columbia physics article that's great or whatever. All right. Anyone else have any questions?
One last question. Sustainability. So, you have this organization, but what guarantees the sustainability of the project?
Of which?
All these.
There's a lot of projects in here.
The Elms project.
The Helms project? So we have, any open source community is just based on how many people are using it as far as sustainability. So we build on, Helms is built on top of Drupal as a core platform, which Drupal has a huge community, which is built on PHP, which also has a huge community, which we use Apache and support Apache, which has a huge community. So any of those three could disappear, but won't, just because they've reached a certain plateau of people using them. So by aligning our project with these other communities, and web components community is growing, and it seems like Google is pulling that community even more to the forefront. The Polymer Conf, which has 500 or 600 people attend the last few years, that I think we can latch onto doing cool technologies in a cool way for an edtech platform to get more people to contribute to it, which we are starting to get contributions from people formerly in the Drupal community and people in the web components community They go like, oh, hey, I fixed that accessibility thing, or whatever that thing is. We also have, we're hiring another developer in our group locally, and the Everly College of Science Office of Digital Learning has 2 people contributing to the platform. So it's a numbers game, really. I mean, a couple years ago, I tell you, if I got hit by a boss, all of this would disappear overnight, but that's not the case anymore. Yeah.
So having said all that, how long until you expect the rest of the university to catch on and join you?
Until any other university catches on, right?
That might be a conversation for not on camera. So I don't care anymore. So I don't care anymore. I did care a lot at one time, and I think that was a big part of why it didn't, quite frankly, is because it was perceived as there's this small group of people pushing for Drupal because it's the thing that they made. And with the web components approach especially, we're kind of reaching out and saying like, I don't care what your platform is, can you make it look like ours and we'll help you? And so by not, it's just universities are these giant boats that take a long time to change course. So I mean, like we've been talking about Elms for 4 years now, and now we have a small community locally, and now we have people playing with it in a more global sense. Not like a ton of people, but I think it's NGDLE has been talked about since 2015, and my biggest gripe with any article about it at the start is that no one's doing it. No, like everyone just has this cool whiteboard diagram, which I drew in like 2012, and my boss said, "Who the hell knows how this works?" And I said, "Not me." But like, we're 5 years later, and it's still there are very few examples of NGDLE types of stuff, just because it takes a long time to pivot the boat. I don't think it's people not wanting to. I mean, even a simple thing like World Campus Evolution is built on a XML and I think Python, but I'm not positive, type of a setup, and it has to hit certain scale requirements. They have thousands of courses in that, whatever that workflow is. It takes a long time to retool everyone to work in a different direction. So I'm hoping Web Components makes it that we actually can start working across things. For a long time, there were a lot of people in Flown as well for delivering online courses and things. And I think the most important part of all of what I just rambled is none of that should matter. Like, that's what's so aggravating, is the server technology has been influencing what can happen instructionally, and it shouldn't. So, is that PC? And I think I got it on the camera.
Well, don't get me wrong. I was just supposed to serve that up for you.
Oh, I didn't know that. Awesome. So what is your experience with it then, honestly?
Is it any easier to upload images?
If Melissa will give us enough time to stop on the other
She
project.
says it's your fault.
It is my fault. Actually, it's his fault because he's got his OER schema Gitbook workflow stuff that's awesome, but we kind of switched gears over to that. So yeah, that's coming very soon.
As an end user, that's my only question.
The issue, one of the issues associated with that is having to support people using traditional HTML type of methodologies, which then invoke like go to the media thing and do the media thing, and trying to do that like hacks type of stuff, where you just, like if you could just go, I want to put an image there, and clicked, and then you drag and drop an image. Like it's hard to, like we have to support the one world while building the other world on top of it. So just from a time, like it just spreads people's time out, which is a poor excuse. But
Sounds silly, but lazy faculty won't have to deal with that.
I know. Well, yell at Melissa. Loudest voice wins in open source.
Just a brief question. My university is using Blackboard CST, not the great CST.
I'm so sorry.
Any kind of compatibility with that system, any possibility of using the functions of this system?
I don't see why not. So like, I don't want to give that answer because I want those products to go away. But at least, so it depends a lot on, are you allowed to put like JavaScript into your Blackboard instance? Like at least, and at least in Canvas sake, when it's like vendor hosted, we get access to like JavaScript by we, I mean, at State in general, not like me. But if Blackboard has something like that where you can load custom stuff, then it would be, okay, like let's build out visually what we want to represent material as, and then, hey, vendor, this needs to load. Like part of this is also advocacy in my mind, because there are a ton of, that's a huge institutional decision to move from one worldview to another. But it's a lot easier to maybe say like, hey, can you add support for this one thing that will open up this whole world of other possibilities? So yeah, and it should, but it starts to get into policy. Where do those things come from? We don't want people side loading material with our stuff or whatever. I think, is Paul Hibbets talking in the afternoon about his workflow? So Paul Hibbets will speak to it in the afternoon, but part of what's not spoken with the own stuff is that we still have Canvas, and then it's like anything that we want to do that's more advanced than what Canvas provides, we take people out to another place. So Mike does that. Paul has a pretty cool approach workflow-wise that we showed in the afternoon too. So